Welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims, and these are the top diabetes stories and headlines of the past 7 days. In the News is brought to you by the T1D Exchange. T1D Exchange is a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving outcomes for the entire T1D population, and by my new book, Still the World's Worst Diabetes Mom, More Real-Life Stories of Parenting a Child with Type 1 Diabetes. It is available now on Amazon and everywhere you get books online. Our top story this week, researchers say a blood test for early diagnosis of type 1 can stave off serious illness and hospitalization in children. This was an Australian study, and it was looking at the finger prick sample that's collected in the home and mailed to the lab. This included more than 17,000 children and young adults, mostly in families with a history of type 1. The team of researchers is the first to use this method to screen diabetes in Australia. They say, quote, "We want to make type 1 diabetes screening accessible to every Australian child, no matter where they live. Our recent work has proven that we can do this cheaply, accurately, and conveniently." The study is published in Pediatric Diabetes. Medtronic gets the okay from Canada for its MiniMed 780G system. It is now available in more than 60 countries around the world, not the United States. 770G users in Canada will be able to upgrade their devices with the new system's software. The 780G has Medtronic's SmartGuard technology. It is a hybrid closed-loop system that works with Medtronic's own CGM and a smartphone. It is approved for ages 70 to 80. Medtronic submitted to the FDA in the spring of 2021, nearly a year after securing CE mark approval in Europe. One of the sticking points, though, is that the FDA said there was quality control issues at the California headquarters of Medtronic Diabetes. In December of 2021, they sent a letter to the company prompting Medtronic to implement corrective actions and other process improvements to address the issues. People with type 1 diabetes who take GLP-1 receptor agonists, or SGLT2 inhibitors, in real life seem to line up with controlled trials. Okay, GLP-1 medicines have brand names like Ozempic or Trulicity. The SGLT2 have brand names like Invokana or Jardiance. These are newer medications, and people with type 1 are cautioned to take them very carefully because of the higher risk of DKA. However, these researchers say after 12 months of use, people taking both types of medications had significant reduction in their A1Cs, almost half a point, and they used less insulin overall. People on the GLP-1 receptor agonists lost a little bit more weight than their counterparts taking the SGLT2 inhibitors. The risk of DKA was slightly higher in the real-world setting than in clinical trials, but these researchers say that is to be expected because in trials, patient selection is more stringent and there is more frequent and intense monitoring. Taking a personalized approach to kidney disease screening for people with type 1 may reduce the time that chronic kidney disease goes undetected. This seems like common sense, but this new study in Diabetes Care is the first evidence-based kidney screening model for people with T1D. Current screenings recommend annual urinary AER testing for anybody who's had T1D for at least 5 years. This study suggests that screening could be personalized. In other words, people with T1D who are at low risk could be tested less frequently to reduce burden and cost, and those at high risk could be tested more frequently to maybe catch it early. People with type 1 have an estimated 50% risk of developing kidney disease over their lifetime, but it is important to note that number is based on 30 years of data, which dates back to the landmark DCCT trial. That trial started in the 80s, which means that 50% risk number could have actually gone down since then. The American Diabetes Association has put out a statement talking about significant barriers that low-income Americans, people of color, older Americans, and people with diabetes living in states with the highest prevalence of diabetes face in accessing CGM. These barriers, they say, are especially high for Americans on Medicaid, who are the least likely to have access to a CGM. There is much broader coverage for people on Medicare, but the ADA is working with state Medicaid and federal Medicaid programs and Congress to try to eliminate barriers here. The chief scientific and medical officer at the ADA says it is disappointing to see that access to vital diabetes management tools often depends on your income, the color of your skin, your age, and where you live. Much more on this, including a big study on CGM, available on the ADA's website. Lots of stuff going on for Diabetes Awareness Month, including sports, the NASDAQ, and make your own sticker. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, Diabetes Connections is brought to you by the T1D Exchange Registry. I've been telling you about this for a while. Have you signed up yet? The registry aims to improve knowledge of T1D, accelerate the discovery and development of new treatments, and generate evidence to support policy or insurance changes that help the T1D community. There are so many studies and opportunities for you to help to share your information in a way that remains confidential. Please check them out. The registry is now available on the T1D Exchange website. It is really simple to use. You can go right to t1dregistry.org/Stacey. You'll see the podcast cartoon picture of me there to find out more. Again, that is t1dregistry.org/STACEY. Back to the news now. Before we get to Diabetes Awareness Month, I just want to call your attention to a really cool blog post by Tim Street. He writes over at Diabetech. I will link this up. He has started a study of one, just himself. He's trying out 6 CGMs that are currently on the market. I think he has them all on at the same time. They are Dexcom ONE, Medtronic Nano, Dexcom G6, Glucomen Day, GlucoRx ADEX, Freestyle Libre 2. Many of these not available in the United States. You can check out his blog and follow along as he tests them out. Lots going on for Diabetes Awareness Month. Embecta Corporation, which used to be BD, rang the opening bell this week, November 1st, in recognition of National Diabetes Awareness Month. They were joined by people representing lots of different groups with diabetes, beyond type 1, Children with Diabetes, which runs the Friends for Life conferences and does a lot more than that, Diabetes Sisters, the College Diabetes Network, now called the Diabetes Link, and many other groups that represent volunteers and advocacy in our community. Dexcom has teamed up with ESPN's Adam Schefter, his wife has type 1, to launch Dexcom U, the first NIL program designed to celebrate college athletes with diabetes and inspire people with diabetes who have athletic dreams of their own. NIL is name, image, likeness. It's the new program that basically allows college athletes to be paid. Dexcom says nearly half of adults with type 1 felt like quitting sports and physical activities because of their diagnosis, and 1 in 5 actually went through with quitting. These athletes tell their stories and how Dexcom helps them. I will link up the video, and we are set to speak with some of these folks in the next couple of weeks. Also from Dexcom, have you seen the See Diabetes campaign for this month? It gives you a chance to create your own overlay patch. I've created one for the show. I've shared it on social media this week, and you can see it along with others with the See Diabetes hashtag. Patty LaBelle, Mark Andrews, Nick Jonas, all taking part. If you design an overlay, I will put the link in the show notes, you may be able to order a few for free. They're saying limited supply. Look, a cynic would say, this is a creative way to use up the G6 overlay patches before the G7 comes out. But personally, I think this is a really fun and creative idea. And I really like how my patch came out, but I really doubt that Benny would wear it. But who knows? We'll see. On the podcast next week, I am talking to Type 1 Talk. Many of you may be familiar with Tom's YouTube channel. He's got great information and resources about diabetes, and I found him when I was trying to restart a Dexcom sensor. I just think he's a really interesting story, and we had a lot of fun, really good conversation. And this past episode was all about asking questions and thinking through use of CGM. Yeah, it was an excerpt from my new book, Still the World's Worst Diabetes Mom. I'm so excited. The response has been great. Thank you so much, everybody who's already purchased the book or is talking about it. Oh my gosh, you work alone on these books for so long, and then they're out in the world and you get a little nervous. But thank you so much. You can listen to those episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And that is in the news for this week. If you like it, please share it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Stacey Sims. I'll see you back here soon.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.